I'm thinking that we're going to finish chapter 10 today, God willing, and then next week we're getting very close to Pesach. So there is chapter 46 and 47 in Tanya are about leaving Egypt, and there's some other passages about leaving Egypt. So maybe we'll do some special Tanya classes about the Exodus.
Oh,
so that could be interesting.
That would be really great.
In the meantime, let's continue where we left off, and where we left off is almost at the end of Tanya. It's the last page, page 7. The PDF is posted on the WhatsApp. But let's review a few things. Finally, it's loud enough. I don't know what he did that's different, and it's loud enough. Okay, let's review a few things. What makes the tzaddik gomer, the complete tzaddik, so special that he's called a complete tzaddik, who's called a complete tzaddik, who's all good? Another name is a chassid or b'nei aliyah. There are very, very few of them. There could be as few as 2 in a generation, but there can't be any less than that. Okay, and
is the Rebbe considered one?
Nobody comes along and says, at least not since Rabbi Shimon, nobody says, I happen to be one. Rabbi Shimon said about that if there's 1,000, I and my son are among them. If there's 100, I and my son are among them. If there's 2, it's me and my son. So, but I haven't heard of anybody else coming along and saying, pick me, I'm one of them. No, he was able to do that, but he was a very special neshama, very special soul, that he didn't feel any sense of pride in saying such a thing. So, in fact, when they asked the Rebbe to take the position in 1950, he said, why are you coming to me? I know what this means, and I'm certainly not suitable for such a position. So it's different. So it's not up to somebody to come and stick labels on people. On your back says, this one is its own. I'll tell you a story. A great tzaddik who lived in Hungary in the last century, his name was Rabbi Yehuda Assad. And no relation to Syria, but that's his name, Assad. So he went with a delegation. He was an elder man. He went with a delegation. They had to speak to the emperor and so on. And in a room, and with a mirror, big mirror on the other side of the room. And they're deciding who should be the one to represent everybody. So who should be? So he looks to the other side of the room, and he sees this stately man with a beard, and he says, well, he looks, like the right person. You can see this face is shining, but you should send him. He said, that's your reflection in the mirror. So, okay, this complete tzaddik, what he's able to do is he said, he transforms darkness into light. And bitterness, he makes sweet.
Yeah, how does he do that? Like, what's the example?
Well, the example, what Tanya's talking about specifically here, is that each of us has within our inner beast, a pleasure drive. Now remember that this inner beast, the animalistic soul, we said is of klippa, but it's klippa's noga. It's the shiny klippa. It means it has a little bit of good mixed into it. Okay? And we said, like, you enjoy helping people. You enjoy acts of kindness. You have compassion. That's the animalistic soul, right? So there are these good qualities within it, but they're mixed in with everything else, and it's very hard we just want to take this and leave the rest behind. That's the work that we do all the time. Find the good in ourselves and leave the bad behind. It's very difficult. Okay. So we have to discern between the good and the bad within ourselves. As for the pleasure drive, it's not in the good category.
Why can't it be good if it's simple pleasure?
Oh, so I'm going to explain. So the many pleasures that a person experiences will. Now there's like salami and mustard, okay, and there's candies, okay. There's also music, art, fine literature, okay? Nature, enjoying nature. I like forests. My wife likes the ocean, so we need to find a forest by an ocean all the time. It works. Yeah. So, and then there's even greater pleasures. The pleasure of helping somebody else. Yeah. All right. That's one of the highest pleasures you can have in this world, helping somebody else. Okay. But far beyond all that is divine pleasure, this bliss of communion with the divine. But it's totally selfless type of pleasure. As selfless as helping another person. Selfless. No, when you usually in pleasure, you lose yourself. You don't lose yourself that much when you're eating salami with mustard. Okay. You lose yourself more in good music, and you or the finer art things, and even more when you're helping somebody else. But nevertheless, we're still still orbiting around ourselves in all of these. Remain selfish. It's very hard for us to help somebody else and not tell anybody about it. And if the person comes back to you and spits you in the face, you think, I didn't good enough. You're supposed to be able to be ready for that because you just did it for doing.
But it's not.
It's not total good, right? It's not still selfishness involved. But you see that the further you go away from self, the greater the pleasure is. The more you lose yourself in the pleasure. Time flies fast when you're having fun. You don't notice time because you don't notice yourself. If you're asking yourself, am I enjoying this? It means you're not enjoying this. Are we having fun yet? That means you're not having fun. Okay, you have to be totally absorbed. You lost yourself. So that's why divine pleasure is such a great bliss, because you totally lost yourself altogether. Completely. That's why it's such a great delight. It's such a great ecstasy. So that it's a kind of, so what I'm saying here is, if you'll take this pleasure drive of the animalistic soul and put in front of it all these different pleasures, including divine pleasure, it's going to, by nature, choose most likely salami with mustard. Yeah. With a little effort, it might choose something a little more refined. Okay? You train it for those things. The last thing it's going to choose is divine bliss. Why? It's a much greater pleasure. It's not that it's not going to enjoy it less. It'll enjoy it far more, but it's not going to choose that. It's not going to choose that. It says, I'm an animal. I choose things that have to do with me. And as enjoyable as this may be, but it's not who I am. It's not me. And in that way, as this pleasure drive stands, it just sucks the person in. So the general strategy for it, there's two strategies. Either you work your way around it and you say, well, even though we enjoy that, but I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this instead. And, and it's also enjoyable. I want to eat the salami with mustard. I'll save it for Shabbos. Okay. Now you're working with it and you can, push it along this way, and the same with every other pleasurable experience you can find. Certain things you just have to not do, like a lot of them. And other things you defer, delay gratification, put it off, find the right framing for it. So it's a world of, that's one way. The other way is you flood it with, this is what the incomplete tzaddik does, you flood it with divine light, right? You fill it, and anybody can do that at the time of tefillah, at the time that you're davening. You're thinking about God, and you're putting yourself in a whole different space, and then it doesn't have a chance over there, right? So it leaves you alone for a little bit. But what you cannot do is go and say, I'm going to work directly with this pleasure drive and turn it around, flip it around. We don't have the capacity to do that. But the tzaddik Gomer does exactly that. He takes the actual pleasure drive, which is by nature always going towards the salami direction, and he turns it around, that it totally rejects that altogether now, and only goes towards the divine. But its nature now becomes that it goes towards the divine. That's the type of person he is. For him, delight has nothing to do with this world. Wow. No, delight for him is something divine. In learning Torah, in learning mitzvahs, and all those things, nothing to do with himself.
Yeah.
Totally losing himself in the divine. And that's where he will naturally flow towards. Hi, Rowan, have a seat. So, can I take a paper? So now, that's what makes him, it gives him the capacity to turn darkness into light.
Okay, so I wasn't understanding it because I'm not a tzaddik, but the tzaddik gets it.
The complete tzaddik does that, yeah.
Okay.
We can have,
Thank you for that.
we can, some sort of taste of that, but it's not the real thing.
Right.
Okay. And then also turning bitterness sweet, making bitterness sweet. I mentioned that's a person has painful experiences in life. We all do. And that's terrible, that's bad. But the tzaddik says, no, I'm growing from this. He doesn't feel the pain of it. He feels the sweetness of it. That this is how he grows. He welcomes it, accepts it. This is God's love coming towards me. God is showing me that he wants me to come closer. He's bringing me closer through this pain. He's able to embrace it that way, turning bitterness sweet. Now, we can pretend to be doing that and do it to some degree, but again, we can't expect it to be really that true as it is by the tzaddik, the complete tzaddik.
So you mentioned,
Yeah.
so in thinking about the complete tzaddik, is this where a self-nullification comes in?
They translate the word we learned about this word in chapter. Go back to chapter. We call it bittul, and people use the term self-nullification,
yes,
which is very misleading.
Thank you.
Because
that was my
null, like null means you make it zero. You eliminate. No, you don't eliminate the self. And we talked about bittul. Bittul is contextual.
Yes.
All bittul means is something is there, but within this context, it's so insignificant. It's negligible. It may as well not be there.
Okay.
So the classic example is you take, you're in a dark room and you have a lamp or a candle, and it's giving you lots of light in this room. Now you go out of the room and it's midday and you're holding the lamp. There's no light coming from there. On the contrary, it's dark. The lamp is darker. So you don't see it because it's totally insignificant within the light of midday. So the same thing, we don't destroy the self. God gave us a self. He made us to be our own being. But we feel, in whose presence am I? In the presence of an infinite light. What is this little person within an infinite light? When a person walks around with that feeling all day long, so he's able to overcome any selfishness. But it doesn't mean he's not there. No, not only I'm here, I'm much, much more powerful. Like the ultimate, one of the example of bittul in Torah is Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, when everybody's accused, Korach and his whole entourage are accusing him and so on, he says, "Anachnu ma? Who are we? Who are we?" I mean, talking about him and his brother. Who are we? And when Hashem, God wants him to go speak to Pharaoh, he says, "Me? Take my brother. He's my." But when he's standing in front of Pharaoh, he stands there with all the chutzpah to tell Pharaoh. He says, "You don't want me to come back? Good. You'll never see my face again. You're going to come and beg me to." So he's able to, and even to argue not just with Pharaoh, he's able to argue with God. Why? Because he feels it's not about me. It's not about me. When he's talking to Pharaoh, it's not me, it's God. I'm just his messenger. And when he's arguing with God, he says, it's not about me, it's about the people. I have to stand up. But me? What's me? So that's called bittul. It's not nullification of self. It means that you feel a much greater context, much greater presence than yourself. And within that greater presence, what am I? That's bittul, okay? So, which the tzaddik, this complete tzaddik has also. We learned also last week that whereas a lesser tzaddik, the incomplete tzaddik, is serving God because he wants to be close to God. And this is his way of coming close to him. So he has a thirst to be close to God. And by learning Torah, by doing mitzvahs, he's going to be. So of course, this is what he wants to do. Whereas the complete tzaddik, he's there already. Why does he serve God? It's not me serving. I'm God's child. God wants this. I want this as well. His will is my will. There's no me here. No I. So his hope, and we said that now, this is where it wedges into what we're going to learn today. What his service to God is tzarech gavoa, for God's agenda, a higher purpose, which is God's agenda. What is God's agenda? Well, God's agenda is he has a creation over here, and the creation is not something separate from him. The creation is just his divine light is sustaining this creation at all times. And this creation, the energy within the creation, is out of sync. It's misaligned with he is his energy above the creation. There's a misalignment over here. And so this is the whole purpose of the human being, is to realign matters. They should be realigned from within. And then, it's called Yichud, Kutsha Brichu Shchinte. God makes a unity between, how did I translate over here? The second to last page. To make the Shekhinah a receptive nest for God and unite the two. So unite the two, and the God and the Shekhinah here below. So there's God as he totally transcends his creation. There's God as he is within the creation. And the purpose over here is to unite them as two. You know what? I made a later translation of this. And I'm going to look it up right now and tell you, this is changing by the day as we go along.
Rabbi, it's evolving.
It's evolving. Is that okay to say? But do we believe in evolution? It's an evolution, yes.
Of ideas.
Okay.
That kind of evolving.
Yeah,
I don't want people to think you're changing things.
No.
Change your mind.
No. You know what? God never changes. The Jewish people never change. We just adapt. And adaptation is much, much smarter. Okay.
Adaptation, yeah.
Right. This is how I retranslated it. The energy. No, it's the same. What do you know? The energy God invests within his creation, his Shekhinah, and that's the same thing, is misaligned with God as he transcends his creation. Yes, that's the same. The sole intent of the complete tzaddik service is to make the Shekhinah a receptive nest for God and unite the two, God and his Shekhinah here below. Okay, so it didn't change. Okay, so that's God's agenda. I mean, you're going to have questions on that, right? I mean, as I said, God's energy within the creation is misaligned.
That's a job for everyone, not just for the benevolent.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't say it's just, but we said it's everybody's job. It's just that everybody else does it not for that reason. They don't do it because it's God's agenda. They do it because it's my agenda. I want to get close to God. He's doing it because this is God's agenda. So that's what he wants. That's what I want. That's totally his reason behind it. To unite. Okay, but there's, I think, a more fundamental issue over here. When we're saying we're uniting God's presence within this world, with him as he is beyond this world.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a problem in that? He's God.
That's right.
Well, so why didn't he get it right the first time? Why did he end up with a world that's misaligned with him? Why couldn't he just make it with a world and everything is aligned and he and Shekhinah together and everything's fine? He's there within his presence, right? Now we're saying God's presence is not aligned with him. It's like me saying, I'm here sitting in front of you and you can see me, I'm present, but it's not the real me. I left my real me at home. Well, why didn't you bring it with you? Well, I got reasons why I didn't want to bring it with me. But he's God. He wants this to be. Why doesn't he just do it?
We had a class on that with the moon,
The
sun
moon?
and the moon.
And then the moon one. Okay, yeah.
And at first it was aligned,
Yeah.
and then the moon said the moon was smaller.
Yeah.
And
I wrote a piece on it. Maybe you read the lunar files.
It was
was?
a number of years ago.
Okay,
so God decided he wanted us to have the free choice to.
It's all about our future. He wants us to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what it's all about. So what he's really desiring is that it should come from within.
Us.
Yeah.
It should come from within. The only real change comes from within.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know the story about that? There was a rabbi who had a hot dog stand. A Chabad rabbi had a hot dog stand. And it was in this place with all these, some counterculture, hippie type of thing, And he figured, how's he going to get to these people? Have a hot dog stand. Okay, so he has a hot dog stand. So along comes the guru, comes to the hot dog stand, and looks, there's hot dogs, mustard, relish, the whole bit. So what does he say? He says, make me one with everything. So the rabbi takes the hot dog, mustard, relish, everything on it, hands him, and the guru hands a $20 bill. The rabbi hands him the hot dog. And the guru is standing there. And the rabbi says, okay, are you waiting for something? He says, yeah, I'm waiting for change. The rabbi says, change must come from within.
You told me that. It's a good one.
Okay. So that's what God wants. He wants it should come from within. And this tzaddik says, well, here I am within, I'm doing it. Okay? Well, that's what everybody does, but for him, that's what it's all about. That's what life is. Making for God this unity of the Shekhinah and his transcendence, that it should all work together, and therefore he has a place here in this world. Like a child who does everything for his father and mother because he loves them more than he loves himself, more than he loves his own breath of life, his spirit and his soul, he will give his very life to rescue them from captivity. You see what he's saying? That God is, so to speak, in captivity. And our job is to release him from captivity. And we think we want to release ourselves from captivity. But the tzaddik says he's free. He wants to release God from captivity. Okay? And that's basically what Moses does and so on. Okay, so now we find that there are two reasons that this complete tzaddik is called, tzaddikim are called b'nei aliyah. B'nei aliyah means elevated ones. They elevate the bad, bring it up and make it good. Elevated. And they're elevated in that they do everything for an elevated purpose, not for themselves, but for something far beyond themselves. So it's not about them, okay? Now, the Alter Rebbe says, wait, there's two different things about this tzaddik. Elevating the bad. And another thing that he's doing is he's just doing it for God's sake, and that's all. To bring this unity between the Shekhinah. Okay? So it's not, he says it's not really two things. These are two sides of the same coin. Okay, is it printed here?
Yeah.
So let's read it as I wrote it, because I always write better than I. Okay, read like this. The complete tzaddik shines in two ways. He achieves a thorough transformation of his Yetzer Hara to Yetzer Tov, and he serves God selflessly, not to satisfy his own thirst, but to satisfy God's agenda to bring about the oneness and the dwelling God desires in his world. So now what the Alter Rebbe is going to do is going to use some Kabbalah terms. He's going to show that these two things are really one, two sides of the same coin. Okay? So these two divine services, last page, turning darkness to light and making dwelling for God within his creation, two sides of the same coin. When you refine, there's a lot of Kabbalah here, when you refine Klippus Noga and elevate it to holiness, the energy of the Shekhinah, feminine waters, rises upward. The Sephiros in the higher world then unite in harmony so that God's transcendent energy, masculine water, flows downward. Got feminine water and masculine water. What's feminine water and masculine water? Well, you remember. Go back to the 6 days of creation. What happened on the second day of creation? First day was, let there be light, Yehi Or. Second day was, there's going to be a rakia. They translate it as a firmament, a sky. And it's going to separate between the waters above and the waters below. Like you could imagine now, there's an atmosphere with clouds on top and an ocean below, something like that. But everything that's happening in the 6 days of creation is happening on multiple levels. So in a spiritual way, what's happening is that there's transcendent energy and immanent energy. We call it, sometimes it's called the higher wisdom and the lower wisdom. Those are these waters. Or another way of calling them is the masculine waters and the feminine waters. Masculine being the transcendent, feminine being the immanent, within. So the two different types of waters. And now they have to be reunited. Actually, the Medrash says that when the lower waters were separated from the higher waters, they didn't want to stay down there. They wanted to go back up. He says, no fair. They get to be up there, just like the same with the sun moon arguing with the sun. No fair. Why did they get to be up there and we have to be down? We're going back up. And they want to go back up. So God said, no, you got to stay down there. And from now on, so you don't get these ideas of coming back up again, I'm going to make it you're moving all the time. Running all the time. Which is why when we make matzah, the matzah that we're going to eat at the Seder, we use water for it that has been held still in a container overnight. It's called Maim Shalana, water that stayed overnight. The water has to stay still for one night before we can use it to make matzah. Why is that? Because as long as water is running, it doesn't feel it needs to go back up again. As soon as it sits still, it starts feeling it. What am I doing down here? I'm supposed to be up there with the higher waters. Okay, so that's the metric. So that's deep meaning to it. There's the higher waters and lower waters. There's the higher energy, the transcendent energy, and it's called the masculine waters and the feminine waters. Now the way it can work is in two different ways. One way is if the masculine waters start coming down, the feminine waters will start coming up. Another way is the feminine waters start coming up, the masculine waters will start coming down. That's how the creation works. So we can bring transcendent energy into the world, and then the world will start moving upwards. But that's not what God wants. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. If it happens that way, it's unstable. It doesn't last. The way it has to happen is first we bring up energy from below. The energy from within the world is immanent. We're bringing that up. And then in response to that, divine energy comes in. Now, what's the difference then? That if it starts off with the divine energy coming in, the world's not ready for this. Now again, and it starts just leaving itself, like you get this blast from above. Whoa! It's a trip, and trips don't last. Okay, but if it starts from below, then that means the world has prepared itself for what's going to come into it. It's ready for this. It's good, so it can handle it. So,
But if it starts from above, and then you take that and go with it, that could be mind for like that could start from above, but then you have your continuation of it. You take that and apply it to your life.
yeah, so then it can only be a type of trickle from above that's very quiet, so quiet that you feel that it's coming from within you. Because as soon as it's something that's, call it intrusive, it's beyond you. And then...
Well, let's say you give a beautiful share, right? You give a beautiful class, and then I go home, and then I take that and it inspired me. So that got me to do good things. That's me, but it's from your class.
So let's say you listen to somebody's class, and it was so fantastic, and you go out and somebody asks you, well, what did he say? I don't know, it's just amazing. I've heard that many times. It was amazing, but what did he say? Oh, it was amazing. So I tell you, from something like that, not good things happen because the person thinks he knows something when he doesn't know anything. It has to come out, you come out of the class and say, wow, you said all this, you sent my head spinning. I got to make some notes on this. I got to talk it over with people. I got to get this. What was he saying? The best class is when you walk away knowing that I didn't get it. And I have to think it over until finally now I put it together again.
Right.
And it's really good.
It's just,
I tell you that, but if the people who walk away from the guy, whoa, forget it, they're losers. The guy walks around, what? Ah, he got it. You see, that's the way it works. Like Toba, see. So the people were struggling with it, right? I remember when we would hear our best teacher was Rabbi Khan. And he would start off like with these questions that just ripped everything apart. Okay, all my understanding of everything is not working. You try to talk to him about, and it's not working. And then he comes up with some idea that turns everything on its head, completely different than you never thought of. And the whole world is, and you walk out of there, what? Wow, what's going on? What's going on? I have to rethink everything now. Everything. Okay, so the guy who does go rethink everything, he got it. The other guy said, whoa, wow. Okay, so that's the same thing. Yes.
Could it be you could take an example from the luchos? The first luchos were too overwhelming, and
Right. Very good example. Very good example. And they ended up making a golden calf, right? Because they were just 49 days ago. We were, there in Egypt, acting like every Egyptian. We were slaves, and now God spoke to us, and this is too much to handle. Too much to handle. It went the opposite direction. Okay, and there are many other such instances. It happens in a marriage as well.
I wanted to continue with this luchos. So the second luchos, where they had a chance to think about things and integrate the what was said to them, and they were ready.
Right.
So it came from below.
More ready, and they had to do something. They had to build a mishkan, so that they now built something that that allowed them to absorb this. So that's that's a good example. But I'm saying that the same thing happens in the marriage as well. So when it's you have a husband-dominated marriage, which ends up being husband-dominated marriage is whatever I want. So he ends up being very dissatisfied because she's not really there. Okay, you have such a thing. So it has to come in two directions. So, and a teacher-student relationship. Okay, we talked about that. All relationships have this, that the mashpia and mekabel, influencer and receiver, but it's not really receiver, means that the masculine and feminine side in every relationship, that there's a little bit of initiation from the masculine, but very insusceptible, and then there's initiation from the feminine side, and then, right? So a good class is when people ask good questions. It works much better when you have the question. You can't teach somebody anything until they have a question. That's why at the Seder on Pesach, we do all these strange things at the beginning of the Seder so that children will ask questions. But they don't ask any questions because they learned the whole thing already in kindergarten, so they know everything is going to happen. So you have to find other ways to get them to ask a question. You know, like instead of dipping your vegetable in salt water, dip a potato chip in lemonade or something. Why are you doing that? Oh, finally, I got to ask a question. Okay, you got to get them to ask a question. I think it only happened to me once. I had a child who was asked a question. Why are we doing that? You know, aren't we supposed to make a motzi now? You know, we washed our hands. We make a motzi. It happens very rarely. Finally, yes, somebody asked the question. Okay. But that's. You know, there's the Socratic method. The Socratic method is the teacher asks the questions and the students are supposed to answer. Because Socrates felt that every person really has all knowledge inside himself, to bring it out with questions. And so that goes on in schools to this day. The teacher standing at the front of the room asking the kids, what's the average rainfall in Brazil? Who knows what? Kids, so one who knows the answer asks the questions, and the ones who don't know are supposed to give the answers. Okay? But the Jewish method is, like at the Seder, you do things so that the children will ask questions, and then the adults will answer by telling the story. Okay, so that's the Jewish method. I have an article on that as well, on God and education. So that's the same thing of the the initiation coming from the feminine water. Okay, now let's line this up with what this tzaddik is doing. What is he doing with the feminine waters? He's raising, he's elevating. He's elevating. He's elevating his own pleasure drive. He's elevating the bitter things that happen in life. He's elevating all these low earthly things. He's elevating them. And that we all of us do that. But he's a specialist at it. Refining Klippas Noga. Okay? And the divine energy, water of kindness. Okay? So when you refine Klippas Noga, you elevate to holiness. That's the feminine water rising upwards. What happens then? That goes all the way up into the spheres of the world of Atzilus, the world, God, divine world of emanation, and it causes a great unity there of all the spheres. And now that initiates that. Now the masculine water starts flowing downward. When now that energy that's flowing downward, that's called Meimei HaChasodim, water of kindness. You channel, when a person is doing a mitzvah, he's channeling that energy down into the mitzvah. Okay? So think step by step. I work with my inner animal that we're not going to eat the salami and mustard today, we're waiting for Shabbos, that sort of thing. Well, I work with my inner animal to elevate, refine it. I learn it with some Torah. And now I'm raising myself up. I'm learning more Torah. I become davening problem. I'm raising myself up. Now, when I come and do a mitzvah with that energy, I'm bringing much more divine energy into that mitzvah. If I would just do the mitzvah, just do it because I did it yesterday, it wouldn't bring so much. But because I've done this refinement, and lifted things upwards, now the mitzvah brings down much greater energy when fulfilling the 248 mitzvahs, right? The 248 limbs of the body. And all the positive mitzvahs contain this positive energy and masculine water. In effect, when you do a mitzvah and you are channeling God's when you do a mitzvah, you are channeling God's transcendence downward to be invested within our world. What's that? That's called unity of God and His Shekhinah here below. So that's how it works. So you want your mitzvahs to be bringing lots of energy into this world. In order to do that, you first have to raise yourself up. Right? So there's two things you want. It should happen here in this world. That's what a mitzvah does. But you want it to be the highest divine energy. You want His very essence to come in out here. Okay, for that you have to lift yourself up. So that's what really all of Torah and mitzvahs is about. This up, down, connecting, raising yourself up to bring something down, raising yourself up to bring something down. That's why learning Torah, davening, those things are so important. That's lifting yourself up. And that gives your mitzvah so much more power to bring something down into the world. But a person who never does any of that, he doesn't spend time learning, doesn't spend time focusing on his davening. So his mitzvahs are still mitzvahs. But there's not enough energy. Much more energy can be brought into them. Okay, so now you see that the two things, the static down, the elevating and the bringing down, are all one thing, and that's what mitzvahs are all about, as is explained. All this is explained elsewhere. Is the last part. But as Mendel Barber pointed out, this is what all of us are doing all the time. So all of us have to be. And that's why every Jew has to do both. You can't have a Jew who just does mitzvahs, doesn't learn Torah. You can't have a Jew who just learns Torah and doesn't do mitzvahs. You need the up and the down. Both of them happening all the time. There was one other point, and I forgot what it was, that I had to make today. Oh, this is what it was.
Okay.
I wanted to discuss something that came up earlier. We said, how did this tzaddik divest himself completely of any bad whatsoever? And he said that he has to have revulsion for it.
Yes.
But a tzaddik is not about revulsion. The tzaddik is about love.
Yeah.
Right? So he says, well, revulsion is the flip side of love. Mm-hmm. So I was looking into this more because it really is a quagmire. There were prominent psychologists working with people with bad habits, addictions, and so on, found, well, the way you rid yourself of something is because you come to really dislike it. And then you rid yourself of it. So the addict has to come to a distaste for the things he was addicted to. So I give you people cigarettes that taste terrible, that sort of thing. And so the behavioral therapists, they'll work this way, but found themselves that it's just causing other problems instead. The person starts having a revulsion for himself, self-hate. And life just becomes too distasteful for him. So you're putting him in a very precarious position. Well, the other way is give him positive reinforcement for positive things that pull him away from this. Okay, very nice, but he never ends up dropping the habit. Keeps on falling back to it. So it's fascinating to me here that the Alter Rebbe is saying you have to play both at the same time, and they're not two different things. It's all one thing. if it's a true love for the positive, it's going to have with it the opposite, the revulsion for the negative. But where is the focus? Well, the focus of the tzaddik is completely on the love. And then, in this love, he looks at this other side, but this is meaningless, this is ridiculous. Right, so he does both. But he doesn't focus on, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. No, he focuses on, this is good, and if this is so good, what's this doing here? Get this out of here. No, so it's like a person's living in an apartment with, for their furniture is full of fleas and cockroaches, and that's disgusting, and there's a mess everywhere. So how do you get them out of it? One thing is, you give them better lighting, you bring in some nice stuff that looks really good, and you get them to enjoy that. Here's a nice couch, there's no bugs biting you. And then they look at, let's get rid of that, okay? So there has to be an overt, let's get rid of that. But it always has to begin with, look, there's something so much better. If a person has no concept of the so much better, he's not going to be able to fight off the stuff that's not good.
I have another question regarding the Klippa Noga. That isn't really bad.
It's mixed. It's a mix of good and bad, mostly bad with a little bit of good mixed in every part of it.
What's bad about looking at a flower and enjoying it, or going for a walk? I mean, I don't see the bad in that. I can see that the tzaddik would reject that because it's not, for him, it's not in the service of God. But I don't see the repulsion of it. Why does he have to feel repulsion? Why can't he just think, well, if I do this in the service of God, it's much better. But
in the very first class, in one of the early classes, I don't know how early. Anyways, much early classes talked about the two words in Tanya that don't have the same meaning as they do in the rest of the world. That's good and bad. Right? Good and bad, as we generally use them, are very relative terms. Right? If one day it's snowing outside, one person says, I love snow, it's good. The other says, I have to drive home in the snow, it's bad. Okay? And what was good in one situation, all of a sudden is bad in another situation. Because, now we don't do those things anymore, whatever. Good and bad in Tanya is talking about, is this fulfilling your purpose in life?
Okay.
Is it divine? Is it uplifting? Because you are a divine soul.
Okay, it's divine versus not divine. Can I get that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the flower is essentially divine. Yeah. The beauty of the flower is divine. And it's crying out to you, please release me from this mundane prison and bring out the divinity within me.
Okay.
And you say, no, I just want to smell a flower. No, the flower says, you missed. Please come back. Elevate me, please.
Part of this repulsive, I thought. These are simple pleasures.
So the tzaddik is repulsed by that because how could something dare exist in the world that's not divine?
Right.
The world is only divine. How could there be anything that's not? I can't bear this. There's some things in the world that's not. Okay.
No, but he makes it divine.
It is divine, but it's imprisoned, right? The flower is crying. Tova, please say a bracha on my aroma. If a flower has a nice aroma, you go over it and you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haborei isvei v'samim, who creates herbs, vegetation that smells nice, okay? And then you smell it, and the flower says,
okay.
I got elevated. I'm divine, right? Or you take your cucumber and you make a salad, and you say a bracha on the salad, okay?
Okay.
You see the beauty of nature, and you sit there and you ponder Rabbi Freeman's Tanya Shiurim, and you come back with more questions, okay? So that's that's fulfilling its purpose. That's divine. And we are divine beings. We are the Kohanim in God's temple. Right? And the Kohen in God's temple is not sitting there, roasting potatoes to, making hamburgers. He's making karbanot, offerings for God. And that's who we are. We're a, what should we call it? Mamleches Kohanim v'goy kadosh, a nation of Kohanim, of priests. So that's what we're doing our whole lives. So everything is divine, and it's waiting for you to come and reveal that, and that's good. And not doing that is not so good. That's all it's about. And now next week, so like I said, I want to do some Tanya on the Exodus.
Yeah.
How many we have? Two Shabbos or one Shabbos? I think we have two. No, because no. One Shabbos and the next one's going to be Pesach.
Yeah.
Whoa! I have to pack it in. But if you want, you can look over chapter 26, 46 and 46. Read all of them. Just
bring questions.
Yeah. You had a question?
No. Just saying. We'll read 46, 47. Bring questions.
Yeah. Take a look.
Have you translated it yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, good.
But people come to me with things that I've translated, and I had no recollection of translating them. It's been a long time, so there's all sorts of stuff. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for being here. See all of you and more next week. There was chat over here. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.